Yep, sure, I'm really good with this.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
You can introduce.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much to Tom. I really liked the multiple, young comments there. They were most appreciated, so thank you. I am going to find my mouse. It's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight, and I've commented several times on how beautiful the food has been and how great the company's been. So yeah, it's been quite a delight to date. Left click. So, most of you, when you think of St John, think of the ambulance services that are provided throughout New Zealand. But of course, we also are part of a much larger landscape within that health and social care landscape. Within that is the first aid training, event medical services, medical alarms, youth programs and community programs. How many of you here tonight have engaged with one of those services at some point? There we go. Great. So as you will have picked up, my role has responsibility within the first aid training. So I look after or oversee the public first aid training within the South Island. And as such, tonight, what we're going to talk to you about is why it is so important to have everyone trained in first aid. And it was very reassuring that we were sitting at a table dining tonight with Carolyn, who is very recently trained, which is fantastic. Also really wanted to talk tonight about how technology is really coming to the fore and being utilised to support us in first aid to save lives. And I want to tell you about a new course that we've recently introduced that's starting an important conversation within workplaces and community. So that's what we're all about. Sorry, I'm going to try and go back, but I'm not able to. No? Can I go previous? No. Third time lucky. We'll also take some questions, and at that time it's really a bit of a standing joke most of today and yesterday that Sarah has felt a little bit like she's my living prop that I've brought along. So I've brought some not so living ones down here as well, but I have brought Sarah because she is at the coalface, and so is our senior tutor for first aid training, but also as an emergency medical technician. She is probably going to be a lot more interesting when it comes to that question time. Okay, I wanted to start tonight talking about a few statistics. The first one being that every year more than 2,000 New Zealanders will suffer from a cardiac arrest outside of hospital. So many of you will have heard that statistic before, and I'm sure that most of you, or all of you, will understand basically what a cardiac arrest is, but that essentially at that point we're dealing with someone who has lost consciousness and has stopped breathing. What causes a cardiac arrest?
Blood clot.
Yeah.
Stress.
Could do. This is probably more common. Okay. Could do. What? Anyone know what probably the most common is?
Stress. Shock. Your wife.
Should we ask the EMT?
I'd say heart attack.
Heart attack would be the most commonly known reason for going into cardiac arrest. But there's a whole lot of less common causes as well. Drowning, shock, as in electrical shock.
Drugs.
So there can be a whole lot of reasons why someone might go into cardiac arrest. That's an average of about 40 people each week outside of the hospital environment. Right? So a reasonably significant number. Of course, it can happen anywhere, but you have an 80% chance of surviving a cardiac arrest in an airport, less than 10% if it happens to you on the street. So what's the difference? What's going on? Why are you going to have a much better chance?
Likely the airport has a defibrillator.
Fantastic. Did everyone hear that? Because there is going to be a defibrillator close at hand. What else?
Can you speak up, please?
Sure. We'll see if that helps.
Yeah, it does.
We're going to have a defibrillator close at hand. What else?
Trained first aiders?
Correct. One final one, probably. A lot of people. So wherever you are within an airport, you're typically surrounded by someone who's going to notice pretty immediately that you've collapsed. All right? So if we think about that, then we start to think about what is going to actually help. So outcomes from a cardiac arrest are best when the patient receives CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and defibrillation within the first 5 minutes. Alright? So ambulance can't always get there within the first 5 minutes of you dropping to the ground for a whole lot of hopefully semi-obvious reasons. Logistics. Your chance of survival falls by 10 to 15% for every minute without CPR and defibrillation. Use of an AED within 3 to 5 minutes of a collapse can increase your chance of survival by up to 44%. AED? Yep. What does AED stand for, sorry? Automated external defibrillator. Okay. So what's that picture starting to tell us?
Time collapse outside an airport.
Just for the airport.
Travel a lot.
Okay. Yep, absolutely. Someone up the front here has said that you're going to want to know where your defibrillators are. What else are you going to want? If this happens to you, what are you going to want? Someone who knows how to do CPR. Yep. Okay, so we move into that idea that actually technology is really starting to support us in this area as well. So we've talked about the defibrillators. An AED, or a defibrillator, is going to deliver a short, powerful electric shock to the heart, helping to regain its natural rhythm. Now the good news, guys, is that you don't need to be a medical professional to use one of these. Anybody can use a modern defibrillator. And anyone can learn to use it literally for the first time on the spot. Okay? So that means we've just heightened your chance of survival immensely if we can get you a defibrillator quickly. So how are we going to do that? So first things first, Sarah, my trusty prop, is going to grab us out a defib just to show us how easy they are to actually use. that you don't need experience, that you don't need to be a medical professional, and that one of these will actually guide you through exactly what to do.
I'll put it right in the centre of the floor.
Yep, perfect. Thanks, Sarah. I feel very
Can
attached.
everybody see?
Can you put it on the table up there so we can see?
Alright,
Yep.
I can do. Normally we wouldn't, but I will so everyone can see.
Does anyone know why we don't normally demonstrate on the table? Yeah, because if you are dealing with a live person, you will always deal with them on the floor. Okay? The only exception is a baby. So normally we all, you know, our demonstrations, we don't like to demonstrate anything other than best practice, but for the sake of people being able to see.
Cool. Alright, so really easy, don't even have to push the button. For this one here, all you need to do is pull off the little wee latch. So everyone can see. Okay.
Begin by removing all clothing from the patient's chest. Cut clothing if needed.
So normally there's some scissors in here to cut the clothing to get it off quickly or rip it off. In here is
Look
your
carefully
pads.
at the pictures on the white adhesive pads.
So they've got
Peel
pictures
one pad
showing us
from the
exactly
yellow
where to
plastic
put them.
liner. Place pad exactly as shown.
So it's all
in the
automated,
picture.
it won't
Press
move on
firmly
unless
to
you've
patient's
actually
bare
done
skin.
what it's asked you to do. Cool.
When the first... No one should touch the patient.
Just hold it up so you can hear it.
Analyzing.
Yep.
No one should touch the patient. Analyzing. Shock advised. Stay clear of patient. Press the flashing orange button now. Shock
button.
delivered.
That's it.
Be sure the ambulance
Do
service
move a
has
little bit
been
as well.
called.
When you
It
shut
is
them.
safe to touch the patient.
Just a little.
CPR. For help with CPR, press the flashing blue button.
Most of them have a help feature in them as well, so you can just hit this blue button and it'll instruct you how to do
Place the heel
CPR.
of one hand in the center of the chest between the nipples. Place your other hand on top of the first. Push the chest down firmly 5 centimeters.
Let's get the
Keep
counter.
time with the beat.
So basically every time it makes a noise, you're pushing down on the chest. You get to the breathing bit and it does a bit of a creepy breathe thing, but you get the general sort of idea.
Pinch nose, tilt head, lift chin, and give 2 full breaths. Breathe,
Yeah,
breathe.
bit creepy, but...
Continue with compression.
So this will just keep going until your ambulance will turn up. So it'll do about 200 shocks before it runs out of battery, which is pretty cool. And it'll analyse your patient every 2 minutes and check to see what that heart's doing.
What does it cost the unit?
Depends on make and model. They sort of start off at about 1,800 and go right through for a basic AD to 5,000. These ones here are about the 2,800. Yeah. Yeah. The ones in the ambulance range from about 20 to 50,000. They do a few more things. Yep.
How does it know when to zap you?
How does it know when to
It's
zap
got a
you?
rhythm, you're pumping it from, you know,
So,
it's the opposite to what your heart's actually doing.
so when
It
it
totally stops you out.
when it analyses, we make sure that nobody's touching the patient, so it has that 10 seconds to actually analyse and see what's going on. What the defib's looking for is what we call fibrillation. Has anybody heard of that before? What does that mean? Yeah. Yep, so what we're doing is we're looking for when somebody has a cardiac arrest and they first drop, for about 5 to 10 minutes afterwards they have what we call fibrillation, which basically means their heart's doing this quivering. Hence why we use the defibrillator to try and pick up that quivering and revert it, as Rachel said, into a normal-ish rhythm again. So it detects that, even if it doesn't. So if you put it on a patient that's actually still breathing, it will tell you that no shock's advised and to actually check your patient. So yeah, it's checking what their heart's doing.
Pretty foolproof.
Yeah. So my 4-year-old godson can use one of these on a mannequin. Yeah, just turned 4 and he can, from woe to go and attempt to do some CPR as well. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Oh, go for
probably
it.
a really, really silly question, but with a 4-year-old, if they learn how to do that and they thought it was a good idea to do it to their little brother or something, what would that do to a healthy person?
Nothing, because it would pick up that their heart's still beating normally.
I don't know, it wouldn't let them
No.
that. Okay.
So even if they keep pushing the button repeatedly, it won't shock unless the machine has picked up that
Advisors.
fibrillation.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was just the first.
Train collapses in the street, Sam Hornby, where are we most likely to find the nearest aid?
Okay, lovely lead into the next slide. Thank you very much. So again, on that theme of technology, and it was again very reassuring tonight to have dinner. I actually suggested I didn't have to give the talk, that actually the couple here that could give the talk, because we've already had this app downloaded. AED locations. I've typed in for us tonight 14 Henry Wigram Drive, and there it tells me that our closest defibrillator is 41 metres away in the charter transport ground. Now, it's close at the moment, so we would have to scroll down and find the next one where there's somewhere that's open. But have a look, that's us. We're pretty well populated with AEDs. So this app is supported by St John. You can easily, tonight, download that onto your phone, and in any situation type in your address and it will tell you where the closest AED is. Now this relies, and we're talking to the right organisation here, this relies on community spirit. This relies on people when they buy their AED going, yes, we're buying this for us and our staff, but you know what, we're going to put it on this app because if someone's nearby and they need it, of course we're going to allow them to use it. All right.
After hours?
So if I can't, this isn't live. If we were, you can have a look at yours because you've got it downloaded. We could keep scrolling down and find somewhere that's got hours that are open at the moment. It might be a little bit further, but there will, that's why those are loaded in.
I guess in some cases it's like fire alarm, smash the glass, help yourself.
It will depend, because typically these will be inside, and most of you will be aware, for example, ASB, have got them in all of their banks. It's becoming far more common, but there you go. You can quickly go in and locate that closest one.
Community libraries have them in a case outside.
Oh, outside, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you have to know a code. No. I mean, I think our community library in Redwood have trained everybody in the community, shops and banks
And perhaps they put that in there.
and they put it on the outside so that we can all access. But it's not the only one in that area.
So just about in there, we're working with people at the moment to get those codes incorporated into our 111 call handling system. So if somebody rings up and says, I'm such and such a place with an AED, they can give you the code. It's probably a long-term
Coming.
plan, but yeah.
Okay. Another great example of technology supporting us. I'm just going to play this for you. It does go for a few minutes. I think you'll find it worth it. Hope I've got volume.
Just listen to quite the feedback.
Not great volume. So I'm going to try turning it up on there as well. Might not be able to.
Started CPR, attached the defibrillator, and immediately that advised a shock. And he just literally suddenly went, I can see you. I'll never forget it, never forget that moment at all.
For every minute you don't have defibrillation or CPR, your chance of survival fall by 10%. They say you're never more than 5 metres from the spine, but you're probably never more than a couple of hundred metres from a doctor, nurse, paramedic, policeman, fireman, off-duty, someone who is trained in CPR. But it's from getting those people who might just be in the coffee shop next door to come to where the actual incident is.
Responders download the Good Sound Responder app and they run that app in the background of their phone. And what that app does is that it collects the GPS location and sends it to us so we know at any given time where the responders are.
Ambulance emergency, is the patient breathing? And is the patient awake?
It's definitely not awake. I can't hear him breathing either. I think we need an ambulance.
If you say a certain series of words, which includes things like not conscious, not breathing, things that are highly likely to be a cardiac arrest, then it automatically triggers the system.
Once it can locate them, it will send them a push notification asking them if they can attend to help the patient.
Where is it? Just around the corner, I think. The ambulance is going to still be on the way, but you're going to be there a few minutes earlier, which means that those critical minutes, you can buy the patient oxygen time for when the ambulance arrives to then provide more definitive care.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Connect through. Sound clear.
It makes you feel really good you've made a difference to someone's life. So, I mean, it's really weird to think about that he's around now because of me and because of my friend. He was telling us about his 2 young children. They might have been orphaned if we'd not been there.
Because he was a single parent already?
Yeah, yeah. He lost his wife, unfortunately, the year before.
Alright, so that app has recently been introduced in New Zealand, and again St John is supporting the use of that. Hopefully you will have appreciated from that video how critical that is, being able to get someone to someone in cardiac arrest, as that example gave, 4 minutes before the ambulance, is going to increase their chance of survival very significantly. So anyone who has done that first aid training, right through to people like Sarah, who can show us shortly, she is on Good Sam as a responder, can show us how that works. Doctors, etc., as they described on here, can register on the app and make themselves available. I've had quite a few phone calls within St John where they've had to go, sorry, gotta go. My Good Sam is alerting. So it will tap into anyone within a 1K radius and get them to the scene if they're available. Alright. Sarah, do you want to give us a wee?
Do a wee test run of this one here. So this is just an example of what we hear when it goes off. wakes you up. So it comes up for me whether to accept it or reject it. If I accept it, it'll zoom right in and show me where the patient is. So it's telling me here that the patient's 67 metres away. The new thing that's come out in the last 3 months or so is that I can hit a button up here and now I can actually see what's happening near the patient. So I can tap into a video link, if you like, and actually communicate with bystanders while I'm on the way, telling them to start CPR or put them on the side. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's got a little metronome for it as well, so for your CPR, so to keep your rhythm going as well. Yeah, it's very, very cool.
Okay, still on the theme of technology supporting us with first aid. We're also now using mannequins that give really good feedback, and that's going to support our learners in terms of gaining those new skills around getting some feedback on their positioning of their hands, the depth, the release, the speed or rate with which they're doing CPR. So again, my trusty assistant Sarah's going to show us a couple of the mannequins.
This one here I will have to do on the floor, otherwise it won't work properly. So if I go right in the centre there. Yep. Just before we start though, so this is our Braden mannequin trainer. So we use this as often as we can. So Braden's set at 100 compressions a minute, which aligns with our rate that we want people to be pushing at. So if you have a look when I turn them on, we've seen a bit of red. What does that resemble?
Rage.
Yep. Have a look again.
Suntan.
Yeah. What do we have that's red, and we've got about 6 to 7 litres of it in our body? Blood. So what this does, it actually gives you a pretty significant representation of what you're actually doing when you're doing the CPR. So when you start your compressions, which you'll see shortly, is the blood flow starts to come up around the head, and if Braden's head flashes every single compression that you're doing, your CPR is pretty much perfect. Yeah, so we'll give you a bit of a demo here, and I can come down the back as well. So he even picks up if you have gone too fast or too slow, or your hand placement's off. Like that. If I go too fast, I've lost that inflation.
Oh, right, slow.
Same as if I go too slow as well. So like that. So yeah, pretty good for our visual learners.
What happens if you can't kneel down?
That would be where your awesome instructional skills come in and get somebody else to get down on the floor. Yeah, or make that call to the ambulance.
Or adrenaline makes you do that anyway. You do it without saying. You wouldn't even think about it. You'd just go right. You wouldn't.
So we've got another one as well, which this one's pretty cool. We can plug in a wee screen, which can also hook up to a cell phone, so we can watch 6 mannequins at a time. Basically, it's got some green lights on it. Well, what we're looking for is the release between the compressions, how far down they're pushing, and how fast they're going. So if they're doing perfect CPR, we should get 3 green lights. So, that one there, you can tell me when we've got green, if anything. Yeah, so it gives us a lot of feedback for them, and also for us. We can watch on a screen as well and see what's going on in the room. Very cool. Yeah.
But you still do it through the mouth as well?
The breathing?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to.
There was this, once upon a time people wouldn't do that because when AIDS became that, what happens nowadays?
If you feel comfortable doing the breaths, then do them. the compressions are the most important part. The idea around the transmission rate, you've probably got more bacteria and germs on your hands than the patient does on their actual mouth. Yeah. We used to have quite a huge emphasis on doing the breaths, but now all that's doing is just giving them a little bit of,
So just get busy.
bit of air. Yeah.
When do you quit?
When the ambulance gets there.
No, it haven't arrived after 25 minutes. You're out in the country somewhere.
Keep going. So the last successful one I went to, he was under CPR for an hour and 15 minutes and we still got him back. And if we hadn't have had that bystander CPR, he wouldn't be here to
So was it
tell the
one
tale.
person doing the CPR or the tag thing?
4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they swapped in about every minute. Took us, I think it was 18 minutes to get there, so he was 18 minutes without a defibrillator. So yeah, his survival rate was, about here, but because of that CPR.
No chance without it.
Yeah, and he was actually sitting up having a conversation to us while we dropped him into ED.
On the right side of the statistics, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, it was very good. About 8 shocks, I think. 8th shock he came around and sat up and grabbed his chest and said, "My chest is sore." Yeah. So no time frame really. It's just keep going for as long as you can. 30 to 2, no matter who. So 30 pumps on the chest. And 2 breaths. It used to. It's been the same for about 6 or 7 years now.
Yep. Yeah. So the consistency of message now, I think, is better, which is what they've gone with. And you might be remembering an era where it was different for babies, different for children, different for adults. The message now is 30 to 2, no matter who, which is a lot easier to keep in your memory space and to feel confident about. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to jump from technology into our new course offering. As of last month, we've added to our suite of courses that we offer. And I guess, one of the driving forces is that we can see, for example, Health and Safety at Work Act has defined health as being physical and mental. And so there's a far greater emphasis now on acknowledging that mental well-being as well as physical well-being. So as that poster suggests, we're now offering a mental health first aid course. And really, that's why in my introduction I talked about starting a conversation, because for a lot of New Zealanders, that idea of talking about mental health has still had stigma attached to it. But I think that really very much is changing, and we like to think that we're part of that change. So this course is going to provide our participants with skills and knowledge to recognise and respond to individuals who are experiencing mental health concerns. In that month, and that's all that we've been up and going for, the uptake has been amazing. We're not quite sure why Blenheim appears to be the mental health capital of the South Island, but that aside, we have particularly seen great uptake from our clients. So rather than individuals coming along, it's actually businesses and organisations that are contacting us and asking us for courses for their employees. And the attendee feedback to date is strongly endorsing that this is a really important course for us to be providing. And as one attendee put it, it was the best professional development she's ever done. Okay. So, I think that that's going to become a really important part of what we do going forward within our area. All right, so tonight's message was that first aid skills save lives, but it's actually a community effort. That means we need you. So, you know, it's really that idea of, can you sit here tonight and go, yes, I'm ready to be there for a friend, a family member, a colleague, because most typically that's who it will be. And are you prepared to go a step further, like Sarah, and make sure that you're trained and be a responder within that Good Sam environment? A little bit just generally about us and what we do. So in the last 12 months, nationally, St John First Aid Training trained 80,000 people. I'd like to see that number grow. Hopefully I've shown you tonight that the more people we have trained in first aid, the far greater the survival rate is going to be for those 2,000 people who go into cardiac arrest outside of hospital. We offer a range of scheduled courses to the public, depending on what you're actually needing and what kind of role you're in. We've got specialised courses for medical professionals, and then we offer tailored courses for our clients as well. So we have a large number of clients who are with us on an ongoing basis, and examples of that, we were talking tonight at this table about Air New Zealand. So we train every flight attendant and every engineer at Air New Zealand, and as you can imagine, that's quite a specific context in which they deliver first aid training, and they have very specific protocols that they need to work within as well. Another large client that we work with is Fire Emergency New Zealand, and many of you tonight may not realise that we train them to quite a higher level than many of the scheduled courses, and I've asked Sarah actually to chat to you about why that is and the relationship that now exists between Fire Emergency New Zealand and St John Ambulance.
Cool. Rachel, would you offer training for, I know we're pretty young and healthy here, but would you offer something to Rotary?
Absolutely. So, you know, we offer client courses to any group of people.
What would your minimum number be?
It depends which course that you're actually wanting, but generally you'll need about 14 people to make it financially viable versus coming to one of our scheduled courses.
What would you charge for something like that? I mean, if you did it to this group here?
Well, again, it depends on the course. If you're looking at a level 1, which is a fairly, you know, that's going to give you all of that CPR training, as well as your choking, as well as your, you know, medical, and it's a one-day course. 179 is the cost to come and do it as an individual, and then 14 is about the number that you need to match that, but you can bring along 20.
Cool. So just with Fire Emergency New Zealand, the reason that we've got a memorandum of understanding with them is that nationally they have more cover rurally than what we do. So they have more volunteer and paid stations right across the board in those rural areas. So for example, Cust, you know, our nearest ambulance stations there would be Rangiora and Kaipoi, whereas they have Cust, Oxford and all those surrounding areas. So we've got what's called a memorandum of understanding. So they respond to every single call that we get, which is a purple call, which translates to a cardiac arrest. So they respond to every cardiac arrest we get to. We have manpower, as Rachel said, they are advanced trained, so they are trained to use things like oxygen. They all have a defibrillator and some basic airway management. So quite often, if we can't get there straight away, FENS, as we call them, will turn up. With joining with FENS with those call-outs, our survival rate or our increased number of patients that are receiving CPR has gone up 33% since we joined with them in the last few years, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so that's quite a common thing that they get asked is when they turn up to somebody's house or a public place for a cardiac arrest, they quite often get the "what are you doing here?" question, and that's just so we can get those skills and those advanced people there to provide CPR and defibrillation as quickly as possible. Yeah.
All right. Questions? Yes.
Rachel, most teachers tend to use the Red Cross for their training. I don't know whether you're competing that way.
I guess probably from my perspective, you know, one of the comments that I would tend to say to that is that St John is a charity. You know, who is it who turns up? You know, when you find yourself in this situation. So when you come and do first aid training with us, then that money is going back into the ambulance service that is going to come and attend your call out. So you're not only getting very high quality training, you're actually supporting your ambulance service as well. And you're getting Sarah, so yeah.
So 95 or 90 to 95% of all our treaters are clinically trained as well. So they either have worked on ambulance or are current volunteers or staff members. So they've got that one-on-one experience as well.
Right, any further?
What's the difference between heart attack and cardiac arrest?
This is where I'm very thankful that I bought our ENT. Sarah, do you want to answer that one?
So a heart attack is a blockage in a coronary artery, so the heart's still beating, but there's a blockage on one of the arteries that feeds into the heart, so it gives the heart its own oxygen or blood supply. So if there's a blockage there and the blood can't get through, part of that heart muscle will start to die. Go to a cardiac arrest, there's been a severe blockage that the heart has actually stopped beating and pumping everything normally and they're on the floor. So heart attack is sort of the precursor. They have those sometimes warning signs and are still conscious most of the time and breathing. Cardiac arrest, they're on the ground needing your valuable skills.
What's the current intermediate step for a major wound? Loss of blood? Is it tourniquet or just put something on the wound?
Again, I'll let Sarah go.
Direct pressure, more focus on pressure than elevation, because elevation is just obviously raising it. So good pressure and recognising when they have lost a substantial amount of blood is calling for help. Yeah, but putting pressure on it is that big thing there. Yeah.
Right, any further questions?
Lovely.
Thank you, Rachel and Sarah.
You're welcome.
Right, now, vote of thanks. Craig.
Yeah, Frank.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah.
It's Frank.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel and Sarah. It was great. I was going to get, I have been having a conversation with St John's Ambulance about having their 3-step program. I'm not sure what that is now. Come along and talk to us, but we're going to, I'll put that off a little longer. We all know the great work that St John's Ambulance does, and everyone recognises that. We all hope we never see you at our door. I have had an ambulance called for me. On my West Coast batch, my wife found me on the driveway, sort of unconscious and groaning, but she couldn't rouse me. And I was foaming at the mouth. And she claims that I'd fallen with a ladder, but in fact the ladder had fallen out from under me. But she called the ambulance, and by the time, we didn't have a phone, neighbours called me. And by the time a neighbour rushed around to see me, because she hadn't been able to get me conscious again, I was standing up trying to fix the ladder again. And the ambulance was cancelled, but they didn't come anyway, because it was in home to take care of. they said they weren't doing anything, so. I never received a bill or anything, but I did donate a few $100 later on. So thank you very much, and I'm afraid we've only got one bottle of wine. So.
I have another bottle.
No. Sorry, what
Well, thank you once again.